This is Coder Radio, episode 259 for June 1st, 2017. Everyone, and welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Scale Your Code. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us for the first time ever... Wait, what? He's always been it's Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Mr. Fisher.
I was just getting a little correction. Apparently, you've been on the show before. I thought our co-host was Jar Jar Binks. So, hey, Mike. I mean, gosh, It's really great to talk to you. Welcome to the show. Because this Jar Jar guy has not been working out. I got to be honest with you.
Well, Jar Jar is having some problems today.
Yeah. Well, it's Memorial Day or Memorial Week for Jar Jar is always particularly rough. It's rough. And I can tell you, I can tell when Jar Jar's been drinking because I just get the craziest telegram messages from Jar Jar Binks. Just the craziest.
Misa's so sorry. Misa didn't know.
So how you feeling about Thursdays? So we're doing Coder Radio on Thursdays now instead of Mondays, which is one of the biggest changes I think we've ever done to the show. I know that sounds stupid, but if you think about it, it is a huge change. It's always been a Monday show.
It's always been a Monday show. I kind of like it. I sort of like that we let the week's news build up a little bit and then we do it.
I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking about next week because it's WW. It's WWDC and it's on Monday. And normally we'd be we would normally just blow a whole show and maybe do a live event or something like that. But we've seen where that goes in the past. And so I like this new setup where essentially we can let all of the marketing buzz and stuff sort of get out there, and we can sit back on Thursday now and wait for some actual analysis to give us some time to think about this stuff and just talk about the stuff that actually matters instead of just covering everything, which I think is going to be way better for the show.
I think it is too. And if there's an actual beta that I can install, I can actually do that, right?
They do that now where you can talk about it and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so that'll probably be a predominant topic next week, but it might not be the main topic like a tip, or it might not be the only topic like it would have been in the past. I had a follow-up email. Remember you and I were talking about setting up a Mac as a Linux workstation replacement, which is crazy talk, but it was something that had crossed my mind because we have this Mac Pro. And I was like, okay, well, if I wanted to instead of making Linux more like Mac OS, how do I make Mac OS more like Linux? And I'm talking, of course, about the interface. And so I got a drop-down terminal. And I got those kinds of things that work pretty good. And I set up Homebrew on the Mac just to try that out, to see what having a package manager was like. It turns out it's great. But then you and I were sort of joking around, what the hell would you ever use Homebrew on Linux for? I see it runs on Linux, but what the hell would you ever use that for? Why would you want Homebrew on GNU/Linux when you got good old apt and you got good old yum and all that stuff? Well, Jason wrote in with a little bit of feedback. He says, I'll tell you why I use Homebrew on Linux: to get newer apps on stable bases like CentOS or an Ubuntu LTS that's getting old, which typically don't update app versions until the next release. It's a lower level of friction than hunting down PPAs and backports. I didn't think about that, but if you're setting up a nice infrastructure for a client and they want to use CentOS, Mike, you might use Homebrew to get some of the stuff that's a little more current. And here we were making fun of it.
That's actually really funny. I'm kind of an Ubuntu baby, right? So that's just not a problem for me.
Yeah. Well, if you get an old LTS, you're coming in towards the end of that LTS's life cycle, getting modern Nginx or PHP, which I know you love, or Ruby, it gets you gotta really go through some twists, because it's not just the packages themselves, but it's sometimes some of the libraries and whatnot. So Brew could take an old LTS system that you've deployed years ago and give you some current software. That might be the thing. Mike. That's the thing to look for. He also says that I believe Gentoo and NetBSD's package managers have tried to bring the same thing to Linux distributions as well, but I haven't had much luck with it. And I haven't taken the whole Mac workstation experiment any farther. That was as much as I did. I've been busy doing some hardware review. I got a new piece of hardware in that I'm going to be doing a review of soon. So that's what I've been.
Ooh, you tell me what kind of hardware, baby?
Well, it's an all-in-one. It's sort of like an iMac killer. That's all I'll say for right now.
Oh, it's not from Microsoft, is it?
No, it's not the studio. But like, you know how like the rumor is there's going to be like a pro workstation, like an iMac with like Xeons or something. Well, this is a workstation that already has Xeons and stuff like that. So I've been like, all right, well, let's see what this thing can do.
Boom. All right. So,
Mr. Dominic, we have so many things to talk about today. Now, we're not here to talk about Homebrew, but we maybe could spend a little time talking about Swift and Swift Playground. So why don't I clear a little room? Why don't we make a little room? I got a little public service announcement I just want to cover real quick, because I want to extend an invitation to the Coda Radio audience. If you listen to Coda Radio and you are in the Pacific Northwest area around the 4th of July, we are going to have ourselves a little good old-fashioned party and barbecue here at the Jupiter Broadcasting Studios. It's really to celebrate episode 200 of Linux Unplugged. But anybody's welcome. So we'll have more information soon, probably at meetup.com/JupiterBroadcasting. But essentially, noon Pacific in the JB Studios on the 4th of July, anybody is welcome to come in and I will barbecue for you. So, of course, I assume you'll be here, Mr. Dominic, obviously.
No.
You travel now. That's one of your things is you're a big traveler.
I will be south of the Mason-Dixon, in fact.
In fact, you have like big travel coming up, don't you?
I have permanent travel coming up.
What do you mean permanent? You're moving?
I am leaving the Garden State.
Wait a minute. The Garden State? New Jersey's not the Garden State.
It is the Garden State.
No. I believe the Garden of Eden is the Garden State. Everybody knows that.
No. I mean, it's also the state of...
Wait a minute. Hold on. You've done this before. You've done this. This is a move that has happened before in the Dominic history. What's different this time?
We've got to go back. We've got to go back, Marty.
We've got to go back, Marty. Well played, sir. Well played. Are you feeling okay about this? Because I'll be honest, right now you sound a little down. You sound like you're not stoked about it.
I gotta be honest. I'm a little tired. I'm a little sad. Jar Jar didn't visit me.
Are you a little sad about moving?
No, I'm pretty happy. My friend Jim is having a difficult time right now.
How could he not?
He's going to be on TV next week.
I'll be tuning in.
And we're both a little down because we don't think it matters because of a man named Paul and another man named Mitch.
So you're not going to give me any details, but I find this fascinating that you're going back to Florida. And so you're moving the house, the homestead, and the business. Are you going to are you actually going to move the business address?
So the house that I live in is actually being sold. There is a signed deal.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm relocating to Plant City, Florida. Actually.
Plant City.
Plant City. Yep.
And you're moving the business too. Like Buccaneer IO is going to be based out of there.
Eventually, because of the time of the year, it's actually hard.
Sure, yeah, it's not like something you got to do right away either.
Well, it's something you want to do opening of the new year, right? Because New Jersey is much more.
So we're looking at a population of 34,000. That's interesting.
It's very rural. It's
area code 813. That's good. Wow.
For anybody who wants to show up at my house with a PHP book, please.
So, holy shit! Have you looked at the weather? I mean, damn, that's actually not bad. It looks like a high of 102, but I guess that's not too bad. Why Florida? Is it family? It's family, isn't it?
It's family. It's cost of living.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going from a relatively small house to a relatively big house with an in-ground pool.
Really, dude? Oh my gosh! Yeah. So you've already found a place?
Oh yeah, no, I already did that.
Oh,
in fact,
wow.
I got summoned for jury duty and had to call the court and be like, "Yeah, so I will not be a resident of the state at this time, so I cannot serve on jury." Wow!
So you've already found a place, and your place is sold. Like that's sort of best case scenario.
Yeah, it's a done deal. In fact, I'm going to be. Have you ever heard of the auto train?
The auto train? No, I don't think so.
Is
that some crazy East Coast thing?
Well, I think they have it all over, right? It's from Amtrak.
No.
You drive your car into the train.
What? Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we do not have this on the West Coast. I'm Googling it right now, man. No, we do not have this. If we had this, I would use the shit out of this. You're telling me you can drive your car onto a train?
Right. I mean, depending on how full the train is, sometimes
it runs from DC to Orlando. It doesn't. It is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's.
Yeah,
oh my god.
I pick it up in Virginia.
Oh my gosh.
I drive to Virginia, and then you get a sleeping car on the train, right? So me and the missus.
Shut the hell up! You can get out of your car.
You get out of your car. It's like a Cella, right?
It's like a ferry boat. Like we have ferries here. So you drive onto the boat, and then it drives you around. That's what we have.
Right, and then everybody gets off. The attendants unload all the cars, and now you're in Orlando.
Holy crap, this is so neat. I really wish we had something like this. And it's not crazy expensive either. Like I was expecting it to be like unbelievably expensive. Huh.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, and it's a quick, the train runs from the afternoon to the morning. So you get a sleeping car, you sleep, and you wake up and you're at your destination.
Can I ask you something though? I mean,
please.
I mean, and just, I gotta ask, like, if you had no other considerations, like if you could snap your fingers and a genie made everything work out, would you be moving to California? Would you be moving closer to Silicon Valley? Like if you could just snap your fingers and the best thing for Buccaneer could happen, like, and no other consequences, family, financial, nothing.
Right.
What would you do?
So you're saying geographically, what would I pick? I don't know that I would pick the Valley. I don't think that's what I would do. I would be tempted by Seattle, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would.
See, so I'm going. I feel like I would probably go somewhere that I just need good internet. That's where. But
right.
There's different types of businesses. Well, congratulations. It looks like it's not too far out from Tampa, which is nice. So, but you're not in Tampa, so that's a great spot, dude. And I don't know how long, but not too far from Orlando either.
Yeah, about an hour drive.
That's great.
So it's going to be interesting.
And that's happening soon-ish?
June 26th.
Ooh, dude. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'll be voting in a swing state, which
oh yeah, all of a sudden your vote's gonna matter now.
I know.
You know what I should do is I should plan my vacation for that week, and then we will just pre-record a coder, and you and I can both be AFK, and we'll have two totally different experiences.
Yeah. Now, where are you going?
Well, I've been trying to get Noah to meet up with me in Montana, and then we'll do like a week's worth of shows from Montana, and there's some hot springs down there that are it's just the greatest, man. It's the greatest. Take the kids, take the family. We'll get there. We'll do some podcasting. Because Montana is kind of like the halfway point between my house and his house. So that was the idea. All right. Well, we do actually have some development stuff to get into. In fact, I'm really excited to talk about our next topic. I just want to make some room by starting to say thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code CODERDigital. It's one word. Coder Digital. First, you create the account, then you apply it, and you get a $10 credit. And they have $5 droplets, so you could try it out 2 months for free. Now, DigitalOcean is it's sort of like magic in a bottle, because at first I could tell you it's an easy way to spin up a Linux box on their great infrastructure or a FreeBSD rig with SSD storage and 40 gigabit E connections, and KVM is the hypervisor, and a great dashboard. And that's sort of like the high-level pitch when you don't know anything about DigitalOcean. But once you become a DigitalOcean customer, I can tell you it's more about easy access to super powerful infrastructure whenever you need it for whatever project you're working on. And it becomes a fundamental game changer for your business, for yourself. Personally, if I was still just doing one or two things as a side or setting up things for clients, it would have changed everything for me. But now that I own my own business, it gives me access to infrastructure that in the past I would have had to have been an HP, a Dell, a Microsoft, those kinds of companies to get access to. DigitalOcean.com. In fact, I was just talking with my buddy Joe from Linux Action News about their high-performance CPU droplets. Now, you can go get early access if you request it, and it's, oh man, you want something that is just the peak of the experience. Throughput that you just can't even fathom. Maybe it could be anything for like serving like display ads. But what I was telling Joe was like, Joe, go create a couple droplets. Use the high CPU droplet and go render out all these videos. He's rendering a whole back catalog of his podcasts into video. And it takes twice the time. It takes twice the time of the episode to render it to video because he's doing it on an i5. And so I said to him, what you could do is just upload all the WAV files to a droplet and just let it just burn through that with the high CPU. They've also got block storage, so if you need to do something like attach additional storage to grow, this is perfect because I set up a Nextcloud instance on the $20 a month one because I want a really nice, super fast, lots of storage. And I thought, okay, well, I got plenty of storage because if I ever need anything additional, I could attach the block storage and it shows up as a block device to Linux. You want to use ZFS? Go for it. You want to use ButterFS? Have at it. You want to use XFS like I am? Good man. Or gal. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. First you create your account, then you apply the promo code. You get a $10 credit. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. So Swift Playgrounds are a hell of a thing, and it almost makes me want to use Swift. Now, not quite, but I do get a little tempted, and I thought I'd play just a couple of seconds here.
Education. But last year, the company took it a step further with the introduction of Swift Playgrounds. Swift Playgrounds is Apple's free iPad app that teaches kids how to code with Swift, which is Apple's programming language. Now, the company is taking it one step further.
Oh! Yeah. So they're adding essentially external hardware. Little gadgets, robots.
With a variety of companies like Lego, Sphero, Meebot, and more that allows you to use Swift Playgrounds to program these toys. So for example, you could use the Swift Playgrounds app to program a Lego monster. You could also use the app to program flying drones, robots, and even little Sphero Spark robots.
This is pretty cool stuff. And of course, they're doing it all under iOS too, which always makes me uncomfortable when you start seeing software development under iOS because that leads to the end of the Mac platform. But anyways, Swift Playgrounds will soon be able to
if we deny it.
Yeah, we'll soon be able to control robots, drones, and little toys, and it looks so cool, Mike.
So can I Linux this up a little bit?
Please, please, please do, because I am thinking this is one of the neatest things I've seen today.
My brother recently had a birthday, and he is significantly younger than me. He's just turned 10.
Happy birthday. I got a little brother about that age, too.
Yeah, see? I got him a Raspberry Pi kit that came with a bunch of, like, let's not say knockoff Arduino stuff, but,
Inspired by.
And he's been in his school has, we've mentioned it a few times, the code.org club at school where they do like all the code.org kid challenges and stuff. He loves this thing. This kind of almost like pseudo makery, physical manipulation of hardware with software.
You change something in software and you see something happen in
like a light light up,
yep.
Or like the Arduino thing. The Raspberry Pi thing does like lights and patterns. The kid loves it, and you know what? I think this is actually great, right? Because this has to really, hopefully, inspire passion and creativity in a lot of these young folks. And they all have iPads. I mean, as much as I don't think iOS is really the right platform to be doing this kind of quote unquote work, lots of kids have iPads that were like hand-me-downs or
for sure
whatever.
Yeah, I actually think it's perfect. Because at this age and at this stage, you don't really need to worry so much about, I don't want them to be locked into a platform. I don't want them to have the Apple logo seared into their brain, and so they'll only buy Apple devices for the rest of their life. What you really want is you want children to get some sort of enjoyment and reward from engaging a creative inspiration. And so when you have these devices around already, or you have the Parrot drones, or those little toys,
the little Aribo,
little Lego, like little robot toys and whatnot. Like this stuff's, and actually the other thing that we haven't mentioned, but it's kind of cool, man. In fact, it might be the coolest, is they're working with a lot of different musical instruments. So you can actually have the instruments play music based on what you do in Swift Playgrounds, which that sounds That sounds really cool. And so just getting kids engaged and being like sort of awakening that part of their brain to want to tinker and manipulate things is really what you're encouraging with this. And I don't believe you're encouraging vendor lock-in. You're not encouraging like some sort of iOS ecosystem continuation. What you're really doing is just encouraging kids to tinker. And as they get older, that'll take many different forms.
Right. And it's not like, I mean, the kid's 10, right? Or even any of these young kids, they're not going to get locked in. Technology changes so fast. By the time they're of an age to be in a professional market, we'll probably all be coding with laser beams.
Yeah. I remember, HyperCard was something that as a young kid to me was remarkable because I had played around with QBasic and I had messed around with some basic development stuff. And when I came into HyperCard, I was able to accomplish what it was that I had in my mind as something I wanted to create. And the reward to that, to just starting to create a stack of cards and create an application out of that stack of cards, meant that I didn't spend my time figuring out how to write HyperCard. I just started using it, and I created a basic like database-like application that I could use for inventory as a kid. And I thought that was remarkable. And it showed me that I could do something on the computer and have it create something new that didn't exist before. And that was the important piece. June 5th. Don't you think it's interesting this is coming out before WWDC?
So these are the smaller things that they didn't want to give time to in the keynote.
But they have in the past. I mean, we've watched race cars race around at a WWDC before, essentially this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're, maybe that's telling in itself. So that's the playgrounds. I thought that was kind of funny. And something that maybe would eventually make its way into my family. Like I could see my kids getting into that. And it could be what's great about it. And then we'll move on. But what's great about it is it would be something I would genuinely enjoy. So I would be fully engaged with my kids in that process where I'm having fun and they're having fun. And that's the kind of thing that creates genuine moments with your kids. When you're just there punching the clock and you're just there so the kids can have fun, they have a good time, but it doesn't create that magic moment. But when you are helping move that drone or make the music with the kids and helping them figure it out, it creates a more unique magic experience between you and your kids. And so I could totally see it working its way into our life just because I'd love to have more of those moments. And down the road, we'll do more sophisticated projects and we'll bust out Arduinos, and Dylan already has a Raspberry Pi and a laptops, but we will do more projects like that too, and maybe we'll even dabble in Swift GTK, which I found this week and decided to put in the show notes for you. So I know I'm springing this on you, but it's a wrapper around GTK 3X that's it's largely auto-generated. From a little object introspection, so what could go wrong? The wrapper around GTK 3 is just auto-generated, and the project tries to make GTK more Swifty than just a plain C language interface.
Okay, so someone wants this?
I want this. You don't want this? How do you not want this?
Why do you want this?
What, are you kidding? Are you kidding?
No.
I can't even articulate why you wouldn't want this. So in my mind, if Swift say gets into, well, it's already a very popular language. So once something reaches a certain level of popularity, it tends to attain an amount of momentum that makes it stay relevant for years. And I don't think Swift is going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm aware of that. So this to me seems like the obvious next step. This seems to me like something that would be, it's like it would be a hole. It'd be missing if we didn't have a way to do this. And this is early days stuff here. But this to me like just seems super critical. I don't know. I guess I have
So do you think more GTK apps will get written because of the Swift GTK wrapper?
Yeah. Well, yeah, basically. I hope, and that could take many different forms. I'm not even necessarily talking about mainstream user applications that are written in Swift and have a GTK interface. Like I'm not delusional. I don't think that's going to happen. But what I do see is, hey, here's a handy tool that we've written that interfaces with the server side component of our application, and so maybe I'm maybe I'm Netflix, and I'm using Swift on the server, and there is a GUI that we have written to interact with that server that runs on the Mac desktop, that runs on iOS devices. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if it could also work on the Linux systems that all of the sysadmins are running at Netflix? Like, wouldn't that be great? So I'm not talking necessarily like the next big app, but I'm talking all of those dark matter developers that are creating tools. I'm talking people that want to have internal applications for their own team to manage things that are running on a Ubuntu box on a VPS. Like, that stuff seems like a slam dunk for this.
Don't you think it's more likely that it will be a gateway of Linux users towards the Mac and Apple platform then? Meaning, like, this is how you get your first taste of writing desktop Swift applications. But then eventually you want the real thing, right? You move up from your marijuana to your heroin. I mean, something you know about.
Thanks. Yeah, dude. I'm super strung out on.
I got him, Jeff.
I wish I knew a slang for heroin. I would use it right now. I'm super strung out on insert slang term here.
The big H.
Yeah, I'm such a heroin user that I can't even come up with a slang. There must be. Is it H? Is that a slang term for
H?
H, really?
Arms of the Angel. Yeah, there's a whole pile.
I like that you know him, and I'm supposedly the heroin user. So I guess if you were just to ask me that question a few years ago, like say somehow Swift came out 5 years ago and this was all happening right now, I'd be like, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said. But now that you ask me, in a world where you can run Docker containers on Mac OS, you can run Docker on Windows, you can run Ubuntu, Fedora, and SUSE on Windows, I do feel like there are more and more cuts that are making it easier to switch from Linux to Mac or Windows, which is super strange. I was playing around with KiteMatic, this week.
Okay, sure.
Have you played around with KiteMatic? Have we talked about KiteMatic?
I've heard of it, but I've not actually used it.
Oh,
Am I missing out?
Mike. Mike. Mike, you got to go to KiteMatic.com, K-I-T-E, matic.com. And it is the super easiest, coolest, nicest way to just grab something off Docker Hub and spin up a Docker container on Mac, on Windows, and now I'm messing around with on Linux. And it's nice. It is really nice. And so you have things like this that make running traditional open source applications crazy easy on proprietary desktops.
Right.
You have the compatibility Windows subsystem that Microsoft's created. You have the fact that the Mac has Bash and Brew and all these tools. I think that's my long way of saying I think you're right. It does sort of make it easy to slide further into proprietary desktops and lock-in. But it seems like the general technology momentum and trend is towards more open and Linux.
I think if I had to kind of play this trend out in 3 years, right, we're going to all be using very similar open source tools. In fact, I think that's kind of a dumb statement because we already are.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, before hold your thought, don't lose it. I just want to real quick follow up on KiteMatic. If you're using Docker on the Mac, it integrates natively with KiteMatic, which is super nice. So if you do end up using Docker on the Mac or on Windows, definitely check it out. Because in your little system, like in the system tray or in the Mac menu bar, you can now just launch KiteMatic to manage Docker instead of having to use the command line or anything. It's just nuts. It's nuts. So anyways, KiteMatic.com. Sorry, I just wanted to plug that because the chat room had a question. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, and this is actually made by Docker, which is interesting.
Yep.
No, I mean, it does seem like, look at the Linux subsystem on Windows, right? It seems like the open source development models have kind of won.
I agree. Yeah, especially if it's something you want to have wide community adoption, right?
Right. Like, I recently purchased a Mac because I do that every 3 weeks. And what's interesting is how there is virtually no difference between my workflow on Mac versus Ubuntu.
Oh, really?
It's virtually the same.
I guess I kind of agree, especially if you set up a few things. Like I've messed around with Brew and a drop-down terminal, and I got pretty close. I did get pretty close. Yeah, and if you're using Chrome to access most of your online applications, and then you're SSHing into remote servers, yeah, I guess you're right in really broad strokes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of my applications, are, like Slack is an Electron app, right? Almost everything else is running in Chrome. And my current code editor is Visual Studio Code, which, again, is an Electron app and runs on both.
Yeah, I've been sort of changing my perspective on Electron applications. I was sort of, you and I have talked a lot about how native applications perform better, they feel better. I just, all that stuff, like I've had this conversation a lot on this show.
Hundreds of times, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was all pretty doubled down on my position. But then I listened to episode 6 of Ask Noah, where Martin Wimpress joined. And he makes a really good case for why Electron is a really good thing for the Linux desktop. So Ask Noah episode 6, live from Linux Fest Northwest, he lays it out there, and I thought a lot about it. And the flexibility I get from having, I have a few really great go-to apps: Slack, Simple Note, Naleus, Mail, and a couple others that I'm forgetting that are Electron apps that the nice thing is I always have a system with a pretty good amount of RAM, and I can move those across operating systems, across installs, and they're consistent, and they work well, and they're easy enough for developers to target that the platforms I choose to use are likely going to get an application. And so that has been a big shift for me, is the availability of software that Electron brings. So when I look at things like Swift GTK, it's sort of that same mindset. Like, it's not Electron, obviously, because these would be native applications, but it's sort of widening the target scope for developers. So if you're writing in Swift, now GTK could be a target. Just like if you're a gamer and your engine is Unity, now the Linux desktop can be a target. Or if you're making an Electron app, Mac, Windows, and Linux can be a target. Now if you're writing a Swift application, GTK can be a target. And I don't know, I think it's noteworthy. No?
Okay.
No? Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, I just see, you mentioned Electron. I see Electron as the answer to that problem, though. Right?
Yeah.
Not,
I agree.
Not, I mean, Vala is a really interesting language, and there's not too much, there's Geary, but there's not a whole ton of widely
Not a lot of action unless you're over on the Elementary OS project.
Right.
Hey, did you see that they launched their Pay What You Want app store on Elementary OS?
I did. I haven't seen any figures, though. I was hoping they'd have
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be a tough thing, but good on them. I mean, they've been doing some good work over there, but I wonder how that'll do. I would love to see that do well, but then you want it across the entire Linux desktop. And we'll pay what you want. Is that good enough? Because then it's hard to project a revenue, which is hard then to know how many people to hire. It's a complicated subject, but maybe we'll watch it and we'll report more when we find out. Just before we move on, just a quick point out. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but I wanted to get a little attention so that way if the audience wanted to follow up on it later, they could. The developer of Notepad++ was interviewed. Now, if you're going to be using Windows, Notepad++ is a hell of a tool to use. And so they asked a couple of questions that I thought were interesting. One of the questions was, what's your development environment right now? And the Notepad++ author said Visual Studio 2013 under Windows 10 and Notepad++ itself, because he codes Notepad++ in Notepad++. His first development environment was Visual Studio 6 under Windows XP, and you know what? He says, I miss a good source code editor from back then. And then there's the question that I thought you and I could discuss. Where do you see the open source software community headed? And his answer was this. A few years ago, open source was still a la mode. Now, it's almost a standard way, which you and I were just talking about. Through the proprietary though proprietary software won't disappear, more and more softwares will take the open source option. The open source software community will be much larger in the future and much more accessible, for sure. Now, what do you think of this, Mike, as somebody who maybe wanted to make an application, sell it on the market? If it's something you wanted to have wide adoption, would you be compelled to open source it? Would you say the open source model has essentially, would you agree? It's one, proprietary software is not going away, but you want the community to be large and you want people to be able to access it in the future. Seems like you have to go open source.
Well, certainly if I was doing something that was, a framework or a library or some sort of developer tool, I think you have to go open source right now. There's no choice.
Do it now.
in terms of a consumer-facing like application that's just, you know, an executable that someone runs, I'd probably keep that proprietary, right?
And why? Because you don't want people just to be able to build it on their system for free?
Basically, yeah. I think that would be the reason.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough, fair enough. It was a good interview, and those are the ones that jumped out at me.
Now, having said that, there are certain things, though, I don't think proprietary will work for anymore, right? Like, I'm not sure I would pay for another year of editors anymore, right? Because Visual Studio Code is free and good enough. And open source.
I would say it's great. We talked last week, and I took all of them for a spin. I got Sublime Text 3, I got Visual Studio Code, and I loaded up Atom. All of the ones I said I was going to try out. Sublime Text 3 is currently pulling ahead. Atom, I give the nod to having polished, and they just recently introduced native GitHub integration, which is sort of what piqued my interest. Visual Studio fucking Code, dude. Look at these sons of bitches go. So first of all, it's got your standard text file config. Whip-de-doo. I'm sick of it, but it's fine. It's very Sublime Text of them. Atom has the best graphical management. I think Atom has the best interface of all of them. But Visual Studio Code has some serious community plugins available to it.
Yes.
I was very impressed. I think they have the best out of all of them that I tried. And it gives me the ability to do stuff that I can't do in the other editors. Somebody wrote in a tip and told us how you can close the sidebar. Did you see that? I can't remember what it was, but
I did. I saw that.
That came in.
I just got a Rubocop running in Visual Studio Code, which is a Ruby linter. It's actually now more powerful than RubyMine. I haven't opened RubyMine in maybe 2 weeks.
Ooh. Yeah, so you agree with me that it seems to have some of the best plugins, like some of the best, I don't know what they're called exactly. I guess they're called extensions in Visual Studio Code. Yeah. I
mean, I think this is probably it's currently my editor of choice, obviously, but that could change.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's probably going to have the best long-term support too. So if for a guy like yourself that is just sort of switched over to Linux in the last year and a half and change, and you've been making a transition for a while, this is one of those tools where I feel like as you switch to Linux, you can start to adopt, and it's going to be around for years.
Yeah, and it's on every platform.
Yep.
Which is actually pretty good, and it has a pretty good Vim mode. So I've been pretty happy with that. I do wonder though, what does this mean for folks like JetBrains, right, who are trying to sell you IDEs on a yearly license? I
think they'll be okay. I don't think it replaces that though.
It is for me. I mean,
yeah. Also, just recently announced was a snap package for the son of a gun, so you can get Visual Studio Code as a snap. Yeah, which is nice. What that essentially means is just about any damn Linux distro, even if you for some reason got really butthurt about Ubuntu and moved on but stuck with Linux, you can still get Visual Studio Code. That's what it really means, and that's nice. I would like to see Microsoft update their website to give us download links to the Snap package and whatnot, but it is in the Snap store if you want to check it out. So yeah, I kicked after our discussion. I still have Atom installed too. I like it a lot. I think right now, if I was going to switch from Sublime Text for what I do, I think I would switch to Atom.
Well, you're doing a lot on GitHub, right?
Yeah, and so that's becoming a bigger and bigger part. And I also like GitHub's. I forget. Maybe it's just called GitHub Markdown. I think. Is that just what they call it? It's their modification of Markdown. They got some good extensions that supports that too. So I think for me, Atom might end up being the best, but I was really impressed by Visual Studio Code, and of course, Sublime Text 3 wins in terms of performance and load time and all that stuff. So I like that quite a bit as well. Let me tell you about something else I like. It's a great resource. Scale Your Code. Go to scaleyourcode.com and learn from successful developers. Get access to interviews, inside looks, and tutorials. You just subscribe to their mailing list, and it's a low-flow mailing list, so the value here is pretty high. You get about 2 to 3 emails a month, but what's great is you get access to their interviews. Good stuff, and you can unsubscribe at any time. It's nice. ScaleYourCode.com. You go there and you sign up. I was looking at this interview with Jeremy Edberg. He was the first paid employee at Reddit. So he's got some stories. He's also the site reliability engineer at Netflix. So this is really how Netflix handles 36% of the U.S.'s internet traffic. and how Reddit handles 160 million users. Now, obviously, this is a little bit beyond Jupiter Broadcasting scope. Just a tad. But it's good to take this information in and bake it into our approach. And you can do that too. Go to scaleyourcode.com. Sign up. Get access to these interviews and enjoy. You could marathon this stuff between Coda radios. I mean, why not? It's all good stuff. Scaleyourcode.com. Go there, sign up, and a big thank you to Scale Your Code for sponsoring the Coda Radio program. So let's do a little pre-WWDC hoopla. We're not going to sit here and make a bunch of predictions and look like jerks because it's just days away, and we would really look like tools. But we can talk about a couple of things. This is another story that traditionally would have been in the first 10, 15 minutes of WWDC, where Tim Cook's up on stage and they got all the charts and the graphs. And this is normally one of the things I like to throw up there, is how much Apple has paid to developers. But instead, we're getting it leaked early. Apple says they have paid out over, well, I guess actually the correct term would be they have earned. I don't know if that exactly equates to paid out. They have earned over $70 billion. I'm going to say it again because it might sound like I said that wrong. 70 billion. 70 billion, guys. 70 billion from the App Store. From the App Store. $70 billion from those stupid apps in the App Store. From fart apps, from flashlight apps, to Clash of Titans, all the way up to GitHub apps. I mean, 70 freaking billion. And this market didn't even exist about 10 years ago. I know you're going to shit on this, Mike. I know you're going to shit on this. I know you're going to say, well, yeah, it goes to the top X amount of developers. 70% is in the last 12 months.
The millionaires and the billionaires. Sorry, what?
Apple said that the downloads have grown over 70% in the last 12 months. I mean, these are real numbers. $70 billion, 70% increase in downloads of apps in the last 12 months. That's, I don't know. I mean, to me, holy shit, I guess is all I have to say. 70 billion. I don't know why it just is huge. Now, commence your shitting, sir.
Well, as my man Bernie would say, right? Isn't it something like 90% of the income on the App Store goes to the top 10% of apps, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't think that's super impressive.
Yeah, okay.
And how much of that is Clash of Clans?
Here's or actually Pokemon Go and Super Mario Run.
That's true.
That's really where it goes to. Yeah. However, it's still pretty remarkable. It is still pretty remarkable. I want to just do a little pre-hoopla, just to sort of get this out of the way. I don't know if you've ever seen some of the, some of the rumors that are floating around. I'm sure you must follow it tangentially, but the one that seems to be getting more and more momentum is the Siri in a tube, which is going to compete with the Echo and the Google Home. Siri in a tube.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like exactly the sort of thing that Apple's not good at, right?
Okay, all right. Now, obviously, that's obvious. So let's take that aside for a second and just, what if... Okay, yes, you are right. However, you know what they are good at?
Tell me.
The App Store. And they are also good at what happens every time Apple releases a new device. App sales go way the F up. App sales go way the F up when a new device comes out. If they could work this in somehow to that cycle, if they could sell apps on the App Store that worked on your Siri in a tube, then there's a real there is at least a mini goldmine here for developers. No?
Yeah, that's a pretty ambitious statement.
I feel like
so no one has figured out how to monetize software on these platforms,
exactly.
Right?
In fact, did you hear the report that potentially Amazon is considering just paying some of the top skill developers directly themselves?
Yeah, which just like Microsoft tried to do with Windows Phone, right?
Yeah,
to try to kind of grease the wheels.
Yep. Which is smart if you've got the money to spend. But what if they could figure out a way to make it kind of like how you buy an app on the App Store and they often have an Apple Watch part? So like one of the reasons you might buy the Pro version of an app is because it has an Apple Watch component and now it has a Siri in the tube component. Like there could be like this could be the thing that starts like these little extra things. Like okay, so imagine this. You've got a to-do app. It's a really nice to-do app, and you can get it for free for basic like reminder and to-do functionality. But if you buy the Pro version for $4.99 or maybe even $7.99, then you get an Apple Watch app. Then you get sync with the Mac desktop client or a web interface. And you get the Siri in the Tube reminders capability. So you can bark at Siri in the Tube, and it automatically will create a to-do entry or a reminder for you. And these are things that people in the Apple ecosystem would pay for. So you could charge like $7.99 for an app that has the watch component, the Mac component, the Siri in the Tube component. Are you following me? Like it could be a way to start monetizing these apps in the App Store in a way that you can't do normally because people don't want to pay for anything. But once you've bought into a watch and a tube and a MacBook, all of a sudden $7.99 to have all these things talk to each other feels like a deal.
I mean, it does sound like a lot of work for $7.99. I want to throw out.
Yeah, it's got to be huge scale, right?
Right. I mean, so you're still in the world of you need really, really high volume.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we've talked a lot about the sustainability or lack thereof of the kind of mobile development market, and I'm really not sure if these like Google Assistant, Alexa, any of these kind of, I guess, Siri competitors. Not only do they not help the problem, I almost feel like in a way they make it worse because they make no real attempt at any sort of monetization strategy.
Well, how do you monetize that? The only way I can figure you monetize it if you're Domino's, you're Uber, you know, you can these other
you're making money.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. If you're just creating a skill, and I just don't see it. There's not even a way to pay for a skill right now in the Amazon app.
None that I'm aware of.
There's no option for me to pay 99 cents for a skill on my Echo. That doesn't exist. It's not a thing. But Apple might integrate in the App Store infrastructure, and it might just be another endpoint. Like you can make an iPad app, a Mac app, a watch app. Now you make a Siri and a Tube app. It seems like it might be a more direct path to monetization. And then how
is it more direct? See, that's I guess where you're losing me. How is it more?
Because they have the App Store already, and people are already paying for apps. And so this is just one more thing that they're adding support for. So now when you buy the To-Do app, you can charge an extra $1 if you have a watch and a Tube app that goes with it.
But it's not that the average developer on the App Store isn't making enough money. It's that the average developer on the App Store is actually losing money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. So sure, for the folks who are already making money, the Domino's, the Spotify's, those kind of guys, obviously, first of all, if Apple even lets Spotify on the Siri Tube, right, that would be interesting. Yeah, I could see, this isn't their view into their services and they make money on their services. But, looking at it from kind of the everyman perspective, the every developer,
mm-hmm.
it has never been more challenging to make a living on the App Store.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even though they've just paid out $70 billion, ironically. Right. It's sort of like it's never been harder to be the middle class, even though the people at the highest end, the 1%, are making more money than ever.
It's literally the same phenomenon, right? Where the winners are winning much more than they ever did before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yes,
there's more people maybe not losing, but certainly not doing okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, I'm going to take the dissenting opinion, though, and I'm going to say I hope to hell that they do release a Siri and a Tube.
Okay.
I would be compelled to
buy it.
Yes, I would. And
really?
Just because for me personally, out of all of the virtual assistants, I have Google Assistant, I have Echo, and I have Siri. For the day-to-day things, I use Siri for. Like, so when I'll say things to Siri like, Siri, what will the date be in 2 weeks? And she can answer that. The other assistants cannot answer that. Now, that is a very common problem for me. And setting reminders based on location is also something I use extremely, extremely often. Siri's the best at that. There's other little things that I find it to be extremely useful for, like, just asking general questions that is fine. Where it's weak at is with hardware integration, and that's why I have echoes everywhere. And so I'd be at least willing to consider it. And I think they'd have the best. I think they would have the best path for developers to monetize targeting those kinds of things. We'll see. The thing that gives it some credence that's actually going to happen, and why I'm willing to give it this much discussion, because normally rumors I don't think are worth discussing, is that today Amazon added support for iCloud calendars on the Echo, which is, right, that's going to be one of the main things that the Siri Tube's going to have is integration with iCloud. So, of course, they're going to try to fill in this hole on the Echo as existing Echo devices. This is a stopgap. So you're going to have access to your iCloud calendars now if you have them on. If you use iCloud for your calendars, you can use your Echo now to read it, just like the Sirian Tube will, of course. So I guess you and I will probably be sitting back, maybe having a private conversation about WWDC, and then we'll just sort of round up what seems to be the most relevant to developers in 260.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some, I'm hearing the one rumor maybe before we kind of wrap this up that I would want to jump into is some new refactoring tools in Xcode.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Now, you have never had the joy of working in Xcode.
Just super briefly, nothing serious, yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to use a big IDE, like a JetBrains IDE or Visual Studio or Xcode, one of the reasons you're probably making that choice rather than like a Visual Studio Code or a Vim is because you want powerful refactoring tools, right?
Sure,
that is what those that's what those things are for. I mean, that's
there's other nice things I could imagine, but yeah.
Yeah. But Xcode traditionally has never had that functionality. It's even the most recent version, 8 whatever, has only had like pretty rudimentary. I mean, if you've ever used IntelliJ from JetBrains, the refactoring tools in Xcode look very basic to you. Rumor has it, and you can take this with a grain of salt, right? This is just people like tweeting at me and emailing me, is that Xcode 9, which is going to come out, is going to have some pretty intense refactoring tools for Swift.
Oh, what do you think of that?
If that's true, that would be great.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, really. I often thought that Xcode, that was one of the big things was missing, right? Linting tools, better refactoring tools. And to Apple's credit, Xcode 8 is certainly a lot, and even Xcode 7 is a lot better than Xcode 6. For instance, they catch like bad style and possible errors as comments or warnings now, but they still don't have that powerful like select an area and refactor based on, there's all kinds of stuff you can do in IntelliJ. So it'd be great to see that. I mean, I'm looking at the menu right now and I'm like, okay, yeah, there's just too many things to try to go into.
I would imagine, it's not beyond Apple to just sort of look at what the other guys are doing and go, let's Sherlock that. Let's go ahead and Sherlock that.
Well, especially because IntelliJ now has a Swift IDE called AppCode, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if there was a little bit of
Well, Mr. Dominic, I blame you. I completely blame you for getting me into KiteMatic and playing around with Docker on alternative platforms. So, and it's essentially because I can't stay away. You're always talking about it. You seem to be making a lot of hay over there. So check out, if you haven't seen yet, Mike's videos. He's got some posted on Docker. Where would they go to see those videos, Mike?
I just go to the newly designed Buccaneer.io.
Oh, shoot. Good job, son. Of course, you can follow him, too, at Dumanoku, or you can follow me at ChrisLAS or the network at Jupiter Signal. There we go. A little bit of business. Also, I want to plug one thing that's just so cool. It's just for you guys to go check out. I'm not asking anything. Just go check out github.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. And if you want to mess around with the Caster soundboard, it is so awesome. Some of the stuff, it's amazing how fast the development pace has taken off. And it's now a completely usable tool. It's just the greatest. We're also looking for support and maybe a little help with JBot. So you can dig around and maybe talk to Rikai. Go over to irc.geekshed.net in your favorite IRC client and join. I think it's JB Dev. I think that's still active. But you can also find Mr. Rikai in Jupiter Broadcasting chat and talk to him about it, because JBot could use some love too. But our community has been so awesome with the visualizer we've been using for some of our new shows like User Error and Linux Action News, and with Caster Soundboard. I mean, I'm seeing some seriously awesome software get created at a remarkable rate right in front of my face. Stuff that is seriously production grade. It's so cool to see it. And you can get a little taste of it at github.com/Jupiter Broadcasting, or you can find our IRC bot, which we could use a little love with, at github.com/Rikai/Showbot. It's RIKAI. Yeah, there you go. We have people out there in the community that have been doing some really awesome stuff, and not just like code, but also documentation. Like it's super legit.
But they rejected my Jar Jar feature request for JBot.
There have actually. If you the mic tentacles run deep. If you look at some of the stuff in Caster Soundboard, there's like
I'm noticing that. I'm looking.
I was trying to. There's like a screenshot. There's like specifically like a screenshot where there's like references to Jar Jar and all kinds of stuff in there. So Jar Jar has made his way into the Caster Soundboard development. You worry not, sir. You worry not. It's in there. Thank you, and thank you for that. By the way, thank you so much for having Jar Jar Binks in there. I really appreciate it. All right.
A little bit of feedback on the new Linux News Show.
Oh yeah.
I think you need Jar Jar.
Yeah, everybody says that, of course. That's the number, obviously, as you would expect, the number one piece of feedback that we get. More Jar Jar. Obviously, everybody.
More Jar Jar, more fun.
LinuxActionNews.com if you want to see that. All right, Mr. Dominic. So you want to do next Thursday again? We're going to keep it on a Thursday?
Let's do next Thursday if I can stay awake.
All right. So go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that converted in your local time. And join us live at jblive.tv. And if you'd like to engage in the show after we're live, like all of the other times, coderradio.reddit.com or jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact to send us your feedback. coderradio.reddit.com is a great bet if you want to get my attention, because I almost check it almost every single, I'm going to say 90% of the time. 90% of the time before the show. So it's a pretty good way to get my attention. Okay, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of Coder Radio. And we'll see you right back here next Thursday.